I didn't want to go with a short block because we didn't know how much debris had been floating around inside the engine, and I didn't know if that had done a number on the heads or not, so it was safer to just get a low mileage used engine. It should have been safer getting a low mileage used engine. Hold that thought. Welcome back to Garage Money Pit. As you can see, the BRZ is back and it does have a replacement engine in it. We'll talk a little bit about what else has been going on under the hood, because pretty much everything that happened is under the hood. And I'll talk a little bit about rough cost of this endeavor and why it took so long. Okay, so let's pop the hood and I'll try to show you around. Well, and we have an engine bay and it looks pretty much stock, and that's because it is pretty much stock. What isn't quite stock, as you can see, we have an oil cooler. I went from a combined oil cooler and radiator to two separate ones. This actually has a 2020 air box because the original one was damaged and that was all I could find at short notice. It's got a Mishimoto coolant tank rather than the stock plastic one, silicone hoses, different filler neck, again mostly replacing plastic with metal in the hope that it lasts longer. Kind of have to imagine it more than anything else. There's a coil radiator down there and, well, an engine. This is a 2016 engine, pretty low mileage, but it still had some issues. I'll talk about it when I talk about sit in the car out of the wind and talk you through a little bit of what has happened over the last few months. And you know, there's minor things like, you know, clutch has been replaced with flywheel. We put a braided hose in at the same time as we replaced the clutch and flywheel. It's got a various, see that about here, it's got a various engineering, forged clutch fork, basically all the types of track upgrades you would want to do. I'll talk a little bit about why it took so long to get this done, because the timeline of this basically started in July last year when I blew up the original engine on a track day. And when I say blew up, I mean I blew it up properly. It had a hole in the block. Most of the one piston was in the oil pan, you know, as you do, right? And that's when we ran into supply chain issues, because I had to find a new motor. I had to find, you know, the typical while we're in there parts, engine mounts, stuff like that. Also had to replace the radiator. I had a combined Jackson Racing water, basically coolant and oil radiator in there, and there was no way we would be able to get the debris out of the oil cooler, so I had to replace that. I didn't want to go with a short block because we didn't know how much debris had been floating around inside the engine, and I didn't know if that had done a number on the heads or not, so it was safer to just get a low mileage used engine. It should have been safer getting a low mileage used engine. It took about 2 months to get all the necessary parts and find an engine. So for the first round, we did replace the engine, put all the new parts on, car ran fine, threw a check engine light within 100 miles. It was a check engine light for cam phasers. So at that point we decided, if we're in a position where we have to take the timing cover off, we'll just go and replace all 4 cam phasers and put a new timing kit on. Fortunately, doing the timing kit plus the cam phasers resolved the issue, at least so far, and we didn't need to put in a new ECU at the same time, which would have made this even more expensive. Right now, again, cars back together. So first, why did I not do this myself? I've changed out engines, and you know, they even ran afterwards, so thumbs up on that one. The point was, when the engine blew, I had a track day booked at VIR that I really wanted to get to, and we figured if I could get an engine in time, my local garage could have had the car back together in time for this track day. So that's what we tried. Again, between supply chain issues and the check engine light, that was that. In hindsight, I'm glad I didn't do it, because doing the timing is probably something, especially under time pressure, because by now the track season for 2022 has started already, was not something I would have wanted to do. The other part is, how much has this cost? And this is where playing with cars on racetracks gets expensive. I don't have the exact number in my head, but finger in the air, I think it was about 40 hours worth of work in total. But anyway, cost. So I paid around $10,000 for this car when I bought it. This repair, admittedly with some extra parts that weren't strictly necessary, cost me more than I paid for the car. I paid about $4,500 for the engine shipped, and then I think there's about another $3,000 in parts, which includes the timing kit and the timing kit with the cam phasers. But yeah, so basically I have a car that in the current market might be worth $12,000-15,000. And I just spent more than $10,000 on just getting it back on the road. The reason why I'm still thinking about using this as a track car initially is I have to get comfortable driving the Lotus at the limit. So the Lotus I'll probably use for autocross a couple of times this year, just to get familiar with the handling. I've tracked mid-engine cars before, and I'm comfortable tracking mid-engine cars before. I've tracked my previous Lotus, but it's one of those, these cars are getting expensive, spares are expensive, so I want to be confident before I take it on the track. And this BRZ is a fun track car, don't get me wrong. Would I do this again? Honestly, I should have pulled the plug when I blew up the engine. Because if I look at what I can get for the car now, I'm probably going to get a few grand over and above what the repair cost. Right, so the initial purchase price is down the hole either way, and I could have got a few grand for it with a blown up engine. Right, so it's a wash. And last but not least, what's the future for this car? And the answer is I don't know. I am going to probably try and make do with this car as a daily driver for a little while, and then figure out, do I really need a four-seater? Is this good enough? Do I sell this one as well and then try to find something that's a little bit newer? I don't know yet. We'll see how this one works out. Thank you for watching. Thanks for watching me ramble. And please subscribe. There is more content coming. There is another 911 video that should be coming soon after this. And then there will be another video about the 911 answering the question, will it start, and how much oil smoke are we going to get when we start it? So please watch for that. And finally, there will be eventually another Lotus video. I still have no space in the shop to work on the Lotus. Before I track the Lotus, it definitely needs some maintenance. It needs fresh brake fluid, because I always run these with fresh brake fluid. I probably just want to go over it, change the transmission fluid. We already knew there's some noise around the shifter cable, so all that. There will be videos about that as soon as I get around to it. So anyway, thanks for watching, and hopefully see you soon on this channel.